think one thing that's hard to really appreciate, even for us in the business, is just how big data really is the scale of it, right? You mentioned like 90% every year. I've seen that, they say in the last 2 years, we've created all the data the same as before that in history. And then the next year we say it again and again and again. Just, how big is big data? How does someone know if they have quote unquote, big data, so to speak?
Yeah, some of these problems, they sound so big that you almost ignore them because it just feels too overwhelming, right? But for a company, the problem is very real. I think when you hit several hundred terabytes and more. I mean, if you have a few petabytes of data, you're already feeling this pain because every petabyte of unstructured data is a few billion files. And these are probably a few billion files strewn across hundreds to thousands of shares. Some of it is user generated data, some of it is application generated data, some of it is financial data, and some of it is ex-employee data. Usually 10 to 15% of the data in a company it was created by ex-employees, and the business doesn't even know what's in there, but they're too afraid to touch it, right? So there's all this baggage that you're accumulating, and you don't have to think about zettabytes for this problem to become overwhelming. I mean, with a few petabytes, it's already overwhelming.
Yeah, I mean, just a few years ago, I don't think most people had heard of a petabyte. So,
right.
It's
but now, petabytes, I mean, it's very commonplace, right? Most research institutions have petabytes of data. Most genomics companies, are in the few petabytes, and they're adding 3 to 4 times that amount every single year.
Yeah.
So it's pretty commonplace to get to petabytes these days, sadly.
Yeah, no, I mean, and that's one dimension, is the actual scale of it. That's, like I say, for those of us in the business, it's hard to imagine, for a regular person, it's almost incomprehensible. But with that, you also mentioned a petabyte's a few billion files. So that's quite some complexity as well. So even if you can have a grip on all those petabytes and have somewhere to put them, how do you deal with all that complexity? What does that look like?
That's why you need a more, programmatic way to manage data. Because imagine if there's a solution that could look at data across all your storage. It shows you what data you have. It shows you how it's growing. And you can set high-level policies. You could say, well, if nobody has touched this in a year, I want this taking the least amount of resources. If it's over 3 years, it doesn't even need to be online and live. You can give policies like that, and the system kind of manages it for you, but it indexes everything. So you can always search and find the data wherever it lives. That is data management, right? Data management is this job of analyzing, moving, and indexing and finding data no matter where it lives.
Mm-hmm. And so there's also a concept of whether data is structured or not, which, to keep it simple, basically things that are in a database are very structured. You know exactly how many of what there are and what each one looks like. They're always the same. You can usually predict which are the next ones that are going to come before they come. And now more and more, I feel like the data comes from anywhere. It could be from your camera. You mentioned your telephone. For a business, there's even, you can multiply that. How do you deal with that? The fact that you can't really know in advance what kind of data structure you have.
Exactly, and that's what we deal with, what people call unstructured data. It's not that the data has no structure, it's that it has variety of structures. So it could be PDF files, it could be genomics data, it could be oil and gas data, it could be videos, right? It could be a tweet. I mean, all these things fall under unstructured data. And 90% of the world's data now is unstructured. And so most businesses find that to be a challenge because to manage unstructured data, you have to deal with this huge volume of data very efficiently. And you have to be able to deal with large files and small files because they're not homogeneous, right? And that's what we do. I mean, that's why you want a lightweight distributed architecture to solve problems like that. Basically, we have software that just runs elastically. It shrinks and grows based on your data footprint, and you don't have to sit there and babysit it. It's lightweight. It runs either as a service in the cloud or as virtual machines if you want more control inside your data center, but it connects to all the storage via standards. So it's not tied to just one vendor or one cloud. You can work across everything, and then it gives you analytics, and then it moves the data. When it moves the data, it moves it without any proprietary lock-in. So you can actually use the data in the cloud, because that's the other thing that's happening right now. A lot of people say, oh, cloud, I can get a really good price. It's really cheap. And then it's just like a dumping ground. They're just dumping stuff in there, and they think data is going there to die. But cloud is actually very expensive as a dumping ground because you're paying for it every single day.
Yeah.
So you really want data to go to the cloud to live, not to die. You want to be able to use that data there.